The reabsorption of the semen. As against the old view that the semen must be discharged after it accumulates in the seminal vesicles either voluntarily or involuntarily, in the form of nocturnal emissions, is the more modern view that a definite mechanism exists in the body for the lymphatic reabsorption of the seminal fluid through the walls of the seminal vesicles, and its conveyance into the blood. This means that all semen that is not expended will be taken up into the blood and become part of it, imparting to it its valuable lecithin and sex hormones. Describing the mechanism of the resorption of semen in man, Dr. Tizot writes, the semen, is secreted by the testicles, thence passing through a rather long canal, the epididymis and vas deferens, into the seminal vesicles, and is constantly taken up by absorbent vessels, and returned into the mass of the circulating fluid. According to Hunter's opinion that absorption occurs only in the lymphatics, the genital organs will, according to this theory, be adapted to absorption, since vessels of this kind are here very numerous. The fact is demonstrated by sufficient proofs, one of which will here suffice. In a healthy man, the semen is constantly secreted in the testicles. It proceeds from thence into the receptacles, which are very limited and which cannot contain what is secreted in one day. There are however some very continent men who have no emission of semen for whole years. What then becomes of it if it be not returned to the circulation? It is probable that this absorption does not take place solely in the seminal vesicles, but also in the testicles, in the epididymis, which is a kind of first receptacle adhering to them, and in the vas deferens, through which the semen passes from these organs to the seminal vesicles. The semen is retained in the seminal vesicles until it is used, or expended by nocturnal emissions. During this time, the greater part is resorbed by the blood, and produces on entering it remarkable changes, the hair and beard, it alters the voice and the manners, for age does not produce these changes in animals, they are caused by the semen alone, for they never occur in eunuchs. According to the modern view, the secondary sexual characteristics are due to the presence of sex hormones in the blood, and these sex hormones are present in the semen. When the semen is lost, sex hormones are lost with it, thereby hastening the advent of the eunuch-like symptoms of senility. Conservation of sex hormones through continence is the best method of regenerating the endocrines. The Steinach operation consists in blocking up the efferent testicular duct, vas deferens, so that the semen cannot escape from the body. What then happens to the testicular secretions that are formed? Obviously they must be resorbed into the circulation, thus enriching the blood, of which they become part, with valuable lecithin, sex hormones, phosphorus compounds, etc. According to Professor Leidston, the improved nutrition of men who were rejuvenated by the Steinach operation, as well as of individuals who were sterilized by the same operation, is due to the enforced conservation of semen that results. This leads to enrichment of the blood with lecithin and sex hormones. The difference between youthful testicles capable of producing large amounts of sex hormones and senile glands incapable of doing so is that the former are rich in lecithin, while the latter are dried up and deficient in lecithin. By conserving lecithin through continence, the cells of the gonads which produce sex hormones are better nourished. It has been observed that the interstitial cells of the testes, believed by some to be the seat of production of sex hormones, are fatty cells rich in lecithin. However, there is much scientific evidence that sex hormones are produced by the true generative tissues of the testes, the seminiferous tubules, where the semen and spermatozoa are also formed. This means that with loss of semen there is a loss of sex hormones, and that by conserving the semen, the blood is enriched with sex hormones. Continence is as valuable to women as to man, since in either case, avoidance of seminal secretion means that sex hormones and lecithin are not withdrawn and externally discharged, and that their concentration in the blood is thereby increased. Continence produces the same effects as the Steinach operation. In either case, rejuvenating effects follow. Referring to the fact that the rejuvenating effects of the Steinach operation are due to the resulting reabsorption into the circulation of testicular secretions whose exit has been thereby denied, Kenneth S. Guthrie, M.D., writes, the operation above mentioned, either extirpating the vas deferens or separating the testicle from it, removed the testicles from the position in which their product could be voided in the usual manner through the urethra, but did not separate the testicles from lymphatic ducts through which the resorption takes place, whether they be connected with the vas deferens and seminal vesicles or the peritoneum. The signs of virility depend on the lymphatic absorption of the spermatozoa. Spermatozoa, like blood or any other matter in a vessel without an opening, will be resorbed by the lymphatic ducts. Concerning the necessity for the lymphatic absorption of seminal fluid from the seminal vesicles, when it is retained, so that no external discharge is necessary, Dr. Guthrie says, "It seems that we have reached a dilemma. Either voluntary or involuntary passage forward through the penis, but supposing there were a third way out. That is the process of resorption through the lymphatic vessels, which are abundant in the walls of the seminal vesicles and the vas deferens." It is a strange fact that although many authorities imply the existence of a resorption, they do not realize the formal existence of such a process. Goizet admits a resorption and attributes to this the general manly physical and moral vigor, as it is the vivifying agent of young and adult individuals who have testicles. On the contrary, loss of semen, and consequent non-existence of the resorption, entails loss of strength. The above consideration suggests that in order to obtain the highest state of health, it is advisable to store up and preserve all the genital secretions. Therefore, it may be expected that the man who controls all loss of seminal fluid will heighten the tides of his vitality to the very maximum of which his organism is capable, up to the very limit of his possibilities. According to Dr. Guthrie, since the resorption of semen is a normal physiological process, for which a definite mechanism exists, the loss of semen interferes with this process and, by depriving the body of valuable internal cell nutrients, is a source of debility to body and brain. On this point, Dr. Guthrie says, those persons who are seeking the highest state of vitality possible to them, and who realize that all losses whatever, through whatever cause, must be avoided, there is for them a possibility of an ever-increasing vitality. They will insist on preserving every drop of their precious sperma, permitting it naturally to be reabsorbed, assuring them first of all of a perfect physical body, next of increased mental faculties, and, finally, if they progress, and the higher nervous centers by nourished and developed, of the fullest spiritual development. Dr. Risset writes, Galen knew that the fluids were enriched by the retained semen, although he was ignorant of the matter. All is full of it, he said, in those who have no sexual intercourse, and we find none in those who frequently indulge in it. He then attempts to discover how such a small quantity of this fluid can give so much energy to the body, and finally concludes that it is by its exquisite virtue, and that is thus communicates its influence very promptly to all parts of the body.